welcome to this video. This is the astrological analysis of Sushant Singh Rajput's untimely death. Since this news is all over the media and is trending, and a lot of people are interested in knowing the truth behind his sad demise, I'm presenting this video. However, let me read out the disclaimer. The contents presented herein are for educational purposes only. This video does not indicate or speculate on the actual events, but is an academic analysis via Vedic Astrology. Further, the accuracy of the analysis depends on the correctness of the birth details that are unverified at the time of recording. Here, I will stick to a purely academical analysis using Vedic astrology by keeping aside all sorts of propaganda and speculation that is going on in the media right now. The three most basic questions that anyone would be interested to ask are on your screen. Number one, was it a suicide or murder? Number two, what conditions indicate the type of death? And third, what could probably be the cause and time of death? So, what you're seeing on the screen right now is the natal birth chart of late Mr. Sushant Singh Rajput. Let me mention that I have picked up this chart from Ankit Shaw's YouTube channel. The link is given on the screen at the bottom. Since I don't have the actual birth details of this gentleman. If you look at the natal chart, which is on the top left corner, below it is the Dreshkana chart. In cases of unnatural death, the Dreshkana chart becomes very important. Now, for this particular person, if you notice, as per classical texts of Vedic astrology, be it Brihad Parashara Hora, be it Saravali, there are so many texts that give various combinations that can indicate either suicide or murder or some kind of unnatural death. And I can give a general outline of what those combinations talk about. A suicide, a murder, an assassination, dying in war, or being a victim of certain enemies, or some kind of unnatural death like an accident, etc., can be indicated only and only when the Ascendant Lord, the Sun, the Moon, and the 8th Lord are involved with malefics, natural malefics, that is the Sun, Saturn, and Mars, as well as functional malefics for a particular chart. Now, here, if you look at this person's chart, he has Gemini Lagna. Now, for Gemini Lagna, the Ascendant Lord becomes Mercury. And Mercury is placed in the 8th house. 8th house is the house that indicates longevity. It also indicates hidden schemes and things which are hidden from the public in general. Along with the Ascendant Lord Mercury, we can see Sun and Venus are over there. And in matters of unnatural death, whether it is murder, suicide, etc., we also need to look at the 6th Lord and the 8th Lord. Now, if you see, the 8th Lord becomes Saturn, because Saturn is the Lord of the 8th house Capricorn, counted from the Ascendant, while Jupiter becomes the Lord of the 8th house, which is referred to as the 22nd Dreshkana, as per Vedic Astrology. So Jupiter becomes Lord of the 8th house if we consider the Chandra Lagna, that is, if we count from the Moon. Now, there are certain classical combinations present in this chart that indicate a certain thing. The 8th house from the Ascendant, which is Saturn, is located in the 6th house along with the 6th Lord, Mars. And together, the Saturn and Mars are aspecting his Moon. Moon represents the mind. And in his case, Moon is also the Lord of the 2nd house, Cancer. Now, Moon being situated in Taurus is exalted, which means this whole issue, before I come to the actual point, is somehow related to some sort of hidden stuff, and I'm not referring to the 2 different patents which he had, because I'm not aware of what those patents relate to. Other than that, one of them related to artificial intelligence. But when I'm referring to the Moon here, Moon is the Lord of the 2nd house, as well as it indicates one's mind. Now that is placed in the 12th, which is exalted, so which means his mind was very strong, very powerful. So the stories that are being spread in the media about he having some sort of depression and stuff like that is absolutely false as far as Vedic astrology is concerned. However, since the 6th and 8th Lord, Saturn and Mars, which are highly rated malefics, are affecting the Moon, are aspecting the Moon, it means that there was some sort of extreme pressure on his mind through external forces. Now, mind you, Mars, being the Lord of the 6th house, also indicates enemies. So the combination of Saturn with Mars indicates trouble from enemies. Now, if we look at the Ascendant Lord Mercury, which is placed in the 8th house, along with the Sun and Venus. Sun is the house Lord of the 3rd house, while Venus is the Lord of the 5th and the 12th house. we also have to look at the dispositors. The dispositor of that house, Saturn, anyways, is conjunct Mars. So when there is an involvement of the Ascendant Lord, the Moon, the dispositor of the Moon, the dispositor of the Ascendant Lord, with Saturn and Mars, it seems that he was subjected to some sort of a conspiracy, as in probably he trusted the wrong people and he was surrounded by wrong people, even before his death and at the time of his death. Now if we analyze further, there is a classical combination which specifies that if the lord of the 22nd Dreshkana has any relationship with Capricorn, it indicates death by the orders of the king. It indicates breaking of thighs or being hit with rods or sticks. So that is one of the possibilities. Now coming back to our first and basic question, was it a murder or suicide? The question of it being a suicide can be easily ruled out because the role of the 6th house is very important as far as a suicide is concerned. For someone to commit a suicide, the Ascendant Lord as well as the Moon should be weak, and they should receive the aspect of the 6th Lord and other malefics. In this case, as you can see, the 6th Lord Mars is strong in his own house. Though Mars is aspecting Moon, Moon is exalted in Taurus, and Mars has no relationship with Mercury, which is the Ascendant Lord. So we can easily rule out that this was not a case of suicide. So that leads us to the next possibility. Was it some kind of murder or assassination? From the astrological point of view, I would say yes. Because the lord of the 22nd Dreshkana, Saturn, if you look at the Dreshkana chart, Saturn is located in Pisces. Further, the conjunction of the Ascendant Lord Mercury with Sun and Venus in the natal chart is repeated in the Dreshkana chart also. They are in the same sign of Capricorn, which gives a strong indication that there is a possibility that some highly placed people have ordered his killing, because there's one more classical combination in this chart which indicates death in a war. Now, sometimes it becomes difficult to interpret certain combinations or yogas given in ancient Vedic texts. Yes, there are people who die in war even today, but when you say war, it doesn't mean only the battlefront or wearing a uniform. What the combination means is, it is describing your enemies. Obviously, this gentleman had got nothing to do with military or paramilitary or defense or anything, and there was no battle or war he was literally involved in. It means that the agents of his death were professional killers, and this indicates that he was killed in a very pre-planned and professional way. So that resolves our first question, was it a suicide or a murder? Coming to the second question, what conditions indicate the type and nature of death? Now, most of it I have already explained in the first part. That is, the involvement of Mercury being situated in the 8th house, which is the Ascendant Lord, and the conjunction of Saturn and Mars in the 6th house, the house of enemies, indicate that he has been killed, murdered, or assassinated by his enemies. Now, if we try to delve deep into what could be the method or what were the circumstances when he died, we can observe that the presence of Sun, which being the third lord in his birth chart, and being the 11th lord in the Dreshkana chart, indicates at least one person involved in this particular event is a highly placed person with some sort of political power. The involvement of Venus in the conjunction of Mercury, Sun and Venus in Capricorn, whereby Venus is the lord of the 5th and 12th lord, 5th and 12th house in the natal chart, while being the ascendant and 8th house lord in the Dreshkana chart, indicates that there is involvement of a female, because Venus represents females, as well as the industry from which he belonged, that is the film industry. So there is involvement of people from the film industry also. And if we specifically see, if we want to analyze what were the actual conditions at the time of his death, we'll have to look at the Dreshkana chart. The Dreshkana ascendant lies in Libra, which is hemmed between male fix in this case. That is, on one side you have Mars and on the other side you have Moon. We will consider Moon as a male fix here because it is receiving the aspect of Saturn. So the ascendant lord is hemmed between male fix. There's Rahu in the 11th house, and we have Saturn in the 6th house. Now, these combinations, coupled with our analysis of the Rashi chart, where you can see that the role of Saturn, Mars, these male fix, as well as the role of Jupiter being a functional male fix, being situated in the 9th house, all of these indicate there are certain combinations which indicate that there were multiple agents that led to his death. One of the possibilities is of him being poisoned. Now when I say poison, doesn't mean somebody administered a poison straight away. As far as Vedic astrology is concerned, even certain pharmaceutical drugs and tranquilizers are also considered as poison. So it is possible that he was administered some sort of drug before the event, probably to incapacitate him. And second thing, if we look at the Dreshkana, the conjunction of Sun, Mercury, Venus occurs in the 4th house, which also indicates that this event took place in his own house. Doesn't matter whether it was a rented house or owned by him, but his regular place of dwelling. Now, there can be further detailed analysis that can be done to delineate the actual sequence of events, but I would restrain from that at this point of time, because we have one more question to be answered. Coming to the third question, if one wants to analyze the probable cause and time of death, one can, from the Vedic astrology perspective, one can look at from the Muhurta chart that you can see on your screens right now. In the previous screen, I had shown his natal chart as well as the Dreshkana, indicating the overall type of death and the nature of death. And I'd also listed the Mahadasha and Antardasha periods, which I can repeat. He was undergoing Jupiter Mahadasha and Saturn Antardasha. Normally one does not go beyond the Antardasha, but in cases of unnatural death, suicides, murders or assassinations, now we have ruled out all the other possibilities. It's a clear case of murder or assassination. We also need to look at the sub-dashas, the sub-bhuktis that were undergoing at the time of this event. So I have zeroed down to two vulnerable periods. The first vulnerable period fell on the 13th of June 2020 at 21:45 hours, and the second vulnerable period fell on the morning of 14th of June 2020, 6:30 hours. During these two times, he was undergoing the Jupiter Mahadasha with Saturn Antardasha. In the first instance, it was the sub of Jupiter, while on the second instance, it was the sub of Moon. Now, if you go back and refer the natal chart, Saturn is the lord of the 22nd Dreshkana from his Gemini ascendant, while Jupiter is the lord of the 22nd Dreshkana from his moon chart, which is Taurus. So both were unfavorable. And if we look at the sub, in the first instance, which you can see on the left hand side, I have the Muhurta chart, and below which is the Hora chart for that particular duration of time. Next to it is the Muhurta and the Hora chart for the second instance, which is in the morning. In the first case, it was the sub of Jupiter. In the second case, it was the sub of Moon. Now, when you look at the first instance and try to understand the cause of death, you can see that it is Capricorn ascendant with retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Saturn both placed in the ascendant, which is again hemmed between malefics because we have Mars on one side and Ketu behind the ascendant. So, which is a classical combination showing Papa Kartari Yoga. So, in the case of a Muhurta chart, nobody selects these kind of time periods for any auspicious activity. But there is a lesser known fact that for somebody to carry out dangerous activities, as in this case, let's say it's a murder, such muhurtas are favorable. Apart from that, what you can observe is that retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Saturn are in the ascendant of the Muhurta chart as well as the particular Hora chart. The Hora ascendant falls in Scorpio. Again, you can see the retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Saturn are placed in the ascendant. In the first case, you have this retrograde Saturn, which is the ascendant lord. Now, generally Saturn being in the ascendant is not good. But Saturn being in Capricorn, which is its own house, makes the ascendant strong. So, the only conclusion that I can draw from the first instance is there is less possibility of him dying at this particular time. Although I believe there was an attack over him, since we have a Papakartari Yoga in the Muhurta chart. And if we look at the Hora again, the Hora Ascendant Lord Mars is exalted in the third. But Mars is also the Lord of the sixth, which is Aries. The Lord of the eighth house, Mercury, gets exalted in the 11th house. And the Lord of the 12th house is Venus, which gets placed in the 8th house. So in this chart, you can see that the 6th, 8th, and 12th, all three lords are strong. Along with it, even the Ascendant Lord is strong. So which indicates that the enemies or the people who attacked him were quite strong, but he also gave a good fight to them. Because in the Hora, the Ascendant Lord is exalted. Another salient point to be noted from the astrological point of view is that since in the Muhurta chart, Ketu is in the 12th and a retrograde Saturn is in the ascendant, followed by Mars, which is indicative that he would have received blows both on his feet as well as his head. Now, that's a clear-cut indication as far as this particular Muhurta chart is concerned. So, I would not go into speculation as to what they used for hitting him, because from the astrological point of view, since Ketu is in the 12th house, it shows that he was first struck with a rod from the behind. He was severely beaten on his legs, and probably there was a pillow put on his head, and then he was beaten with rods, so that there is no evidence of any bleeding. This is actually part of, you can call it a combination of medical astrology and forensic astrology. And now if we shift our focus to the second Muhurta chart for the morning of 14th of June, we can see that the ascendant has shifted to Gemini, which has Sun, Mercury and Rahu. And we have the retrograde Jupiter and Saturn in the 8th. Now, this particular chart indicates that he would have actually died around this time. And since Sun indicates falling from heights, the professional killers or his enemies would have at least once thought or discussed of lifting him up and throwing him from a height. That is the classical indication given by Sun as far as astrology is concerned. I don't know why they did not choose to do that and they cooked up some other story. But that is what is indicated in this second Muhurta chart. So, if we purely look at the astrological point of view, there is an indication that he would have been attacked at both these instances. In the first instance, maybe the people left him good for dead. They assumed that he's dead and they left. And there is a strong possibility that they came back again. I'm not sure why, but maybe just to verify, or if they had certain other plans to do something else with his presumed dead body. Maybe they were taken back by shock and they attacked him again in the second instance to ensure that he doesn't remain alive. That is what is indicated based on these two particular Muhurta charts. This is actually an innovative approach to analyze certain events from the Vedic astrology point of view. So I'm not following the narrative given by the media because that is not my job. I'm not supposed to declare anything or jump to conclusions. This is purely based on astrological analysis on this sad event. So, if I have to summarize the entire holistic analysis based on Vedic astrology, all I can say is that this is not a case of suicide, and there is involvement of hired professional killers, someone very highly placed with certain power, someone from the film industry, specifically because there's involvement of Sun, Venus, and Jupiter being placed in the 9000 as natal birth chart, which is also a functional malefic for his ascendant, as well as if we look at his moon chart also, it becomes the lord of the 22nd Vrishkana. So which is indicative of somebody having a godfather-like figure from the film industry. And the basic cause of his death is somehow related to certain hidden foreign assets. Please mind my words, it is certain hidden foreign assets. So I'm not referring to his bank account or money laundered from his own personal account or his intellectual property, patents, etc. I'm not referring to that. The actual cause of death, actual thing that led to his death is certain hidden foreign assets. So this was just a short analysis. The general public can try to understand whatever I've tried to present here, and for those who are interested in astrology, who are students of astrology or who are professional or amateur astrologers, can learn a few things from this analysis. So I will close this video with a shloka. Falani grahacharena ko vaktaha taratamyasya tamekam veda samvina, which means we can only observe the movements of planets and stars, but none other than Lord Brahma can predict the fate. Thank you.